CHGO White Sox post-game show coming to you live from Studio A of our CHGO offices here in the West Loop of Chicago. I'm your host, Sean Anderson. You can follow me on X at Sean_W_Anderson. You can follow the show there at CHGO_White Sox. That's Herb Lawrence.
Hello.
You can follow him on X at Ecknerwall23. And we'll be later joined from Guaranteed Rate Field by our CHGO White Sox beat writer, Vinnie Duber. You can follow him on X at Vinnie Duber and read his latest piece about the Lance Lynn trade at allchgo.com. Obviously, you know the White Sox lost. They played a baseball game. They're 21 games under 500. I think they've lost, more than 60% of their games this year. 60% of the time, they lose every time. It's not been a fun 2023, and that's why the main thing today is trades.
Exactly.
Trades. I said, guys, I won't be around on Friday because I'll be in the Barbie movie, and of course, in the 2 hours of Barbie movie, they make two huge trades, sending Lance Lynn and Joe Kelly to the Dodgers and Kendall Graveman to the Astros. We'll talk about that a little later on in the show, Herb, but the Sox lose today 5-0. There's some storylines here.
Yes.
I think we could talk about Jake Berger, because he's been fun. He's been walking a lot, hitting a lot of homers, plays decent defense at second base, and then also Michael Kopech.
Yeah. The Michael Kopech thing is just frustrating because we came into the year where him, self-professed, wanted to throw, 160 innings? I think he just passed...
No, he said he wanted to throw 200.
200 innings. Okay, he just surpassed the 100-inning mark in today's game. There's only one person with more walks in the whole major leagues than him. This one person happens to be Blake Snell, who's pitching currently for the San Diego Padres, but Blake Snell also has a sub-3 ERA on his free agent year, is one of the top pitchers out there, probably a top 3 Cy Young Award pitcher in the National League. Michael Kopech's right behind him. He cannot find the strike zone at times. And we were watching, it's Cam Gallagher, who's a light-hitting catcher. I think he has 15 hits on the year total. He walks that dude. Cam Gallagher, 9th hitter. Like, all you had to do is throw the ball over the plate. And I know it's easier said than done, but you're a major league pitcher. It should be that easy.
Well,
then he walks Steven Kwan, which is not hard to do because Steven Kwan has a quality eye. Then he walks Andres Jimenez to come up versus the best hitter on the Cleveland Guardians, Jose Ramirez. Throws 2 strikes to him immediately. 2-0.
No, throws 2 balls.
2 balls, sorry.
So
balls again immediately.
Just threw 8 straight balls.
Exactly.
To Kwan, Jimenez, and to start the at-bat against Ramirez.
And then they go in for a mound visit real quick, and he's like, that's enough. 3 strikes for Ramirez for his first strikeout of the game and made Ramirez look kind of silly. And I was like, Sean was like, that doesn't make sense. Well, how do you do all that in that inning, walk in a run, and then make that guy look dumb?
5 walks in the second inning for Michael Kopech. 3 mound visits after the Gallagher walk, and then to Kwan during the Jimenez at bat and the J-Ram at bat. First off, Sebi came out, then Katz came out, and then Sebi came out, and then they were like, oh shit, maybe we should send the trainers out.
Yes.
And Steve Stone, when they're talking, and the trainer says, I noticed about 10 pitches ago that Michael's shoulder was starting to hurt. So I thought, hey, maybe they should take him out of the game.
Yes.
He's just thrown 8 straight balls and really hasn't been able to throw anything over the plate. Steven, feel free to flash the stuff and results for Kopech today, because it was a really atrocious outing for Michael, even though he didn't give up a ton of runs.
Right.
He did give up 2 solo shots. But, hey, if Jose Ramirez hit one of his 2 just in the second inning, probably would have been a lot more runs.
Yes.
And he got 3 fastballs to hit. He just didn't. Kopech went 5 innings, 3 earned runs, 4 hits, 2 Ks, 5 walks, all walks coming in the second inning. Threw 93 pitches today. And the biggest thing that jumps off is in those 93 pitches, the velocity is down massively, minus 2.5 miles per hour on his fastball and slider and changeup. And changeup. His curveball was down about 2 miles per hour. Steve Stone, I think he was right that Kopech was hurt, and I don't understand why they kept going with him. Maybe he wasn't hurt too badly. He didn't walk anyone after the second, but he didn't look sharp. He did give up a ton of homers, and he got down against Kwan and got down against Ramirez and put himself in a bad position. No whiffs today, really, either. 5 on 35 swings, 10 called strikes, but it was tough for him to find the zone. And again, in that second inning, I mean, it was everywhere, that fastball control. I am really discouraged by this start. I asked last time with Vinny, hey, did he mention anything about his physical feeling? And I think, he said no. And I don't really know how much guys will offer up about that, but I would make the assumption, and it's my own assumption, that Michael Kopech is hurt again, or his shoulder is bothering him again, because there's no way that he could be going out there throwing 91, 92, and missing the zone if he's not uncomfortable up there. Like, he's not able to repeat his mechanics. Something has to be wrong with Michael Kopech right now.
I would hope so, because the player that has showed up this year is worse than the player that showed up last year. And I gave him the out from last year because it was his first full year of being a major league starter with that same task at hand. So I was like, okay, whatever you give me, that's going to set the baseline. And the baseline was set, and he's about at the same amount of innings and strikeouts that he had last year, but with fewer starts because he's been oft injured this year, and with more walks than in the same amount of innings that he threw last year, which is very, very disheartening. And so if he is hurt, which we know the White Sox play injured players all the damn time, there's no reason to pitch him further. But if he's as healthy as he's going to be on a July 30th and he's just bad, to me, if I'm Rick Hahn, Kenny Williams, front office people, I'm feeling very down on his availability for next year, and depending on his availability, because next year, if they don't go and sign a big-time top-of-the-rotation pitcher, he's the number 2 pitcher in the rotation. And maybe you bring back Clevenger, and I hope not. He's the 3. And then you're going to have, 2 rookies behind you, or 2 middle-tier 4th and 5th starters? Because the free agent class, which starts high at Shohei Ohtani and then goes to Marcus Stroman and Lucas Giolito, Blake Snell, etc., falls off the table after that. And there's not a lot of quality arms out there, and we know the White Sox are not going to be competing at that top tier. So there's a lot of question marks going into next year. One of the major ones, if you're going to be trying to compete in this AL Central, is Michael Kopech. And if he's this, no, you can't roll with it. 5 innings every time he goes out. Sometimes it's 4 innings, and then everybody tries to baby him and say, well, he's got this electric stuff. Well, if he does this, well, if he was healthy. It's a lot of excuses for Michael Kopech. This is year 4 at least. He's been in the organization actually pitching, his 2nd full year of starting. Much more should be out of him since then. We saw glimpses of greatness through Dylan Cease's career, and you saw progression every year. I haven't seen progression for Michael Kopech at all, especially as a starter.
Yeah, no, I agree. It is really concerning at this point because it doesn't seem like anything is clicking for Michael on the mound. His fastball is very, very good, and he relies on that fastball. But especially today, what we saw consistently was that breaking ball just leaking on the outside of the plate. He wasn't able to find the zone. You all right, Steven?
Yeah, it's just something. We called something, Herb. That's all.
Huh?
We called something was going to happen.
Oh, yeah, okay. Yeah. I don't see it yet. Let's see. Where is it at? Oh, I see it. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Mercy. Okay.
Yeah. Always.
Anyways, to get back on track. Yeah, I mean, Kopech has just been very bad to watch. It doesn't seem like he is developing. And as we've talked with Vinny recently, this is still a developmental year for him, as they're referring to the Sox. So I don't see the progression like you're saying. And Cease seems to be taking a step back from where he was in 2023, but not completely losing everything. Like, you still see Cease, and I think if he finds a rhythm, that old Cease can show through. Maybe he's not going to go 17 straight scoreless or whatever he did, but he's going to be extremely effective, and his top is going to be 10, 11, 12 strikeouts in a game. And with Kopech, can never find that rhythm, and if he does, it's very brief, and then it seems like he runs into something, and now it seems like more shoulder inflammation or another shoulder injury. It's just not really encouraging, and I wonder how much the 2019 and 2020 years of him having to recover from Tommy John and then him taking off the COVID year really affected his development, because those were huge years in a pitcher's life, and he just completely was not involved in baseball, no fault of his own. It's pandemic and Tommy John, so
Exactly.
oh well. But we're seeing a lot of that pop up. I mean, even Makata, we talk about him being affected by that 2020 season. This team has just been kind of plagued in every single direction with injuries. You want to play a game real quick?
I do.
Tell me when to stop. Shohei Ohtani.
Stop.
Oh no, who the White Sox can actually sign next year.
Oh, okay. I was like, that's the guy I want. I want him. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, I want him too. It's not going to happen. Right. Shohei.
Okay.
Marcus Stroman.
Okay.
Clayton Kershaw.
Okay.
Probably retire. Ryu.
Stop.
That's all right. You want them to sign Ryu?
I don't want them to stop, but that's the player that they would sign. His value now is under $100 million, and it's perfect. They need a lefty in the rotation. He's had recent success. Now put those in quotes. I could stick Rick Hahn on the podium right now. I mean, Hinju, man. You saw his years, man. Hinju is this, that, and the other. Well, if he didn't get hurt in the Blue Jays, man, we would have been this, that, and the other. And to have Hinju Ryu in the Sox rotation, man, we're doing things. I feel it.
Well, especially because he's currently hurt. You said it about Corey Lee, who they traded in the Graveman trade.
Hurt.
Again, he's hurt. I was going to just go all the way until Lance Lynn's name, just because we'll play Lance a little bit later. They're probably just going to sign someone old and bad.
Yes.
And you're going to sign somebody like Ryu, who, again, is going to be like 37.
Familiar name.
To just
crafty.
Eat innings.
Yeah. That type of garbage where they think they compete with that. I mean, Mike Clevenger himself. And I know people in the comments, he's been okay. He's pitched 67 innings this year. It's July 30th. Mm-hmm. He's a starting pitcher. He hasn't pitched okay. The best ability. What is it? Repeat. Availability.
Thank you.
He hasn't been good. And it isn't because he's just because of the allegation. He is a scumbag, but he hasn't pitched well. You guys are taking the numbers and saying, oh, that's pitching well. 67 innings in this many games is not a lot of innings for a starting pitcher. And you want him back to do the same thing next year? No. He's not healthy, ever. Yeah. And he doesn't go through enough innings to have the guy and the trouble that he gives you off the field and the headaches and most of the female base and people who actually care about people don't want to root for this dude. And whatever is whatever, Dan. I don't like bad people on my team, and he's not good. So, yes, I don't want him on my team anymore.
A whip of 1.86, so nearing, over a runner and a half per inning allowed on base, whether it being walks or hits. A hit per nine of 8.1, homer per nine of 1.2, walk per nine of 3.5. There's the ERA of 3.59, but the FIP, the fielding independent pitching, of 4.69. It's a guy who can easily blow up because, again, if he faces enough left-handers or that slider isn't working on a particular day, right-handers will eat up that fastball. Like, it's a guy that can have a blow-up start and give up 3 to 4 homers in a game. And I'm not really, it was a fine return from the IL, but it's not the guy who's important to talk about today. Let's go to Jake Berger, because I do want to bring him up, and then we'll go to some Rick Hahn and Lance Lynn and Joe Kelly stuff because of the trade. But Jake Berger, this is from Chris Kampka, this month, 11 walks, 22 strikeouts. Entering this month, 11 walks, 78 strikeouts. So he has doubled his walk total in the month of July, has cut down on his strikeout rate, and he's hit a ton of homers, too. He's been fun to watch. Made a diving play yesterday at second base. Yep. It seems like there's no interest in TA on the trade market.
Correct.
Yohan Moncada seems to be back. It's 5 games, knock on wood. He looks healthy. He's hitting the ball pretty hard, and that's consistently after 5 games. So, hey, we'll pencil him in for the 2024 year. We'll talk about the catcher position with Rick Hahn a little bit later. Andrew Vaughn seemingly is Rick Hahn's left-hand man, asking about, hey, what about these trades, huh? The leader in the clubhouse. Yeah. So we could write his name in Sharpie. Second base is going to be played by Jake Berger.
Which is weird.
Oscar Colas can throw, I think, to probably Evanston from right field.
He's pretty good.
So we'll keep him there. Maybe he'll start hitting at some point. Robert's all right. He's okay?
He's decent.
Yeah, he's fine.
Did you see the Codify tweet yesterday?
No.
Where they're giving Shohei Ohtani's F4 for the year. It's like 7-4. And then each subsequent number, so 7-3, 7-2, 7-1, and it keeps on going down. The tweet goes all the way to Roberts, which is like a 4-2. And it's just a big blank space. It's like that's the difference between Shohei Ohtani and a pretty great player in Luis Robert. So stop your talking about him not being that special. It's like he's special, and Luis Robert's special too in his own. If Luis Robert pitched, I think he maybe can be Shohei Ohtani.
I don't know about that.
I'm not saying like if he had the ability to pitch, he would be in that same realm, but he doesn't. And that's what Oscar Colas is a right fielder for us.
Yeah, right.
Because it's really hard to do. Oscar Colas with a Cuban Shohei Ohtani. I just want him to be the Carlos Lee. The Cuban Carlos Lee, please.
What El Caballo is the horse, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, what is the horse since Cuban?
El Caballo.
Oh, okay. So Luis Robert Jr. did just hit his
Del
29th
Caballo.
double of the year. So he's one double and one homer away from 30-30. So that's a fun milestone to be watching out for La Pantera. That's the Panther.
It is.
So I kind of like that.
And we've had a Panther before.
We should name everybody after.
Do you know who was the Panther before Luis Robert was?
No.
Sammy Sosa.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh.
His nickname was the Panther when he was a White Sox.
I thought he was slamming.
Then he became Slamming Sammy Sosa.
See, that was a lot better because he was hitting homers there. But Robert closing in on a 30-30 season. Sharpie his name in center field. Benny, they signed him for 4 years, so Sharpie his name into left field and apparently fifth in the batting order.
And we'll double his salary next year, too.
Yes, good. Hey, he's been great. Really professional out there.
You joining the ride?
Oh, I'm so enjoying the ride. I mean, I'm strapped in. I am smiling, painted on smile, but I'm smiling all through that ride. Steve Stone said, "Hey, he's been enjoying the ride for 34, 54 years now. I don't know. He's old as dirt." He said the ride's not over, and it's like they're 21 games under 500. Steve, quit lying to me. Where was he going to? Oh, but it seems like the lineup is pretty set for next year. And there is a ton of concern over the 2023 rotation or 2024 rotation just because, again, Cease is not going to be traded from what the reports are saying. Kopech doesn't seem to be a quality starter at this point, and I do wonder if he could ever be healthy enough to be that person. And then, we talk about it. It just seems like there's holes from 3, 4, or 5. Not really sure what that rotation is going to look like, and they're trading everybody away in the bullpen. So we'll talk about the state of the 2024 Sox right after a break. Want to let you know about our friends over at Hooters. Herb's been to every location, all 11 Chicagoland locations. You can find those at originalhooters.com, but they're your spot to catch all the games this season. Step up to the plate for their famous wings, delicious seafood, stacked sandwiches, salads, and more. They have tons of great beer specials and $6 drinks all day, every day, and you can check out their seafood specials, $19.83 for a pound of crab legs, and great prices on buffalo and steamed shrimp. Hooters is celebrating 40 years in the business all year long. In honor of their anniversary, on the 4th of every month, Hooters will be hosting a throwback event, bringing back the 80s with 83-cent wings and other great specials. The next one is on August 4th. So again, check out their 11 Chicagoland locations at originalhooters.com for more info. Also want to let you know about Game Time. If you're looking to head out to a game this year, check out Game Time. Buying tickets to your favorite events shouldn't be stressful, whether it's a game, a concert, comedy show, some theater. They have killer deals on last-minute tickets and their best price guarantee. You can stop stressing over the tickets and start getting hyped for all the fun you'll have. And you can forget planning months in advance. Maybe you want to be adventurous. Maybe you're bored. Maybe you just don't want to watch the White Sox. Go out. Be adventurous.
Please.
Go see what Game Time has.
Enjoy yourself this weekend.
And they have tickets.
And everyone.
Right up to the day of the event. So if you want to feel adventurous, Game Time has your back. They also have the Game Time guarantee, which means you always get the best price. Find tickets in the same section and row for less. Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. So download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code CHGO for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code CHGO for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. All right, let's head out to Guaranteed Right Field. We're going to welcome Vinnie Duber. You can follow him on Twitter at Vinnie Duber. He's our CHGO White Sox beat writer. You can check out his latest article about the 4 outcomes of the White Sox trade deadline deals with the Astros and Dodgers at allchgo.com. We'll talk more later on with sound from Rick Hahn and Lance Lynn and Joe Kelly. But first, Vinny, I want to chat a little bit about today's game. We've been talking about Michael Kopech, And I also want to talk about the lineup because I know people are like, oh, Chieda hit his first homer, so now he's automatically the leadoff hitter. But it does seem like there's a new spot for Andrew Benintendi. But let's start with Kopech. What did he have to say after the game? I brought up last time. I asked if he mentioned anything about his physical feeling, and you're usually like, players aren't really going to divulge that. They're usually going to say they feel fine. But Steve Stone was even pondering during the game, especially during that second inning, that Kopech's shoulder might be hurting or bothering him. Did he speak on that post game?
He didn't. Just to address what you're talking about real quick, I mean, there was that moment in the second inning where Pedro went out there with the trainer and made a very brief visit, and then Michael stayed in the game and pitched 5 innings. Pedro was asked about that postgame and said that everything was fine. He noticed a dip in the velocity, but he walked out there. Kopech said he felt fine, so he kept going. A lot of the talk postgame, almost all of it, when it came to Michael Kopech, didn't really have anything to do with physical side of the game and had almost everything to do with the mental and emotional side of the game. This is a guy who Pedro Grifol says a lot of the conversations between the two of them, he wants to remind him to have fun, to enjoy pitching, because you see Michael Kopech out there, things are not going well for him, and he is noticeably upset. I don't want to say that, it's something that he can't fight back from, but he talked about after the game how important the mental side of things are, how when he goes out there trying to be positive, trying to keep it light, and then things don't go well, it's hard to continue on in that mindset. I think you can probably sum it up pretty easily by saying the things that are going wrong are getting to him, and they're visibly getting to him on the mound. And it doesn't take, a pitching coach to notice that. And so these are some of the questions that we've been asking him and that he's been talking about. It's obvious right now that, and Pedro even said he thinks sometimes he's putting too much pressure on himself. And I think, like I said, I use the word obvious, and I think it is kind of obvious. It seems like he's trying to pinpoint, and Ethan Katz today called him a perfectionist, and that is good and bad, right? That there's a flip side to being a perfectionist, that it maybe you're trying to be perfect, trying to throw a perfect game every time, ball leaves the yard, game's not over, but your perfection attempt is over, and all of a sudden things kind of start to snowball. So I think we've seen that a little bit with Michael Kopech, and it's something that continues because that second inning was a great example of him just not having it, not being able to find the strike zone. And once he was out of danger, he went back out and he got some help from his defense, and things got better, and he was able to go another 3 innings without walking anybody. Then the home runs came, obviously, eventually. But, that was an inning that has looked all too typical for what we've seen from Michael Kopech this year. And if this truly is what Pedro Grifol said it was, a developmental year for Michael Kopech, well, then I think we got to dial it back to like 2018 Lucas Giolito, not that it's that bad, but is that going to be the result? That's the result that the White Sox have to be hoping for at this point, is that they keep throwing him out there. These results might be keep getting what he's getting at, but it might be that learning experience that he needs in order to be a different pitcher next year.
So I just want to follow up on the velocity comment. Did he notice that just in the second inning? Because we showed the stats from StatCast, and over the 93 pitches, I mean, every single pitch was well under 2 mile per hour off his yearly average. So that's why I guess I ponder about the injuries, or the possibility of an injury, especially with his past IL stint. Was that velocity comment from Pedro specifically about the second inning and then the trainer visit, or was that something about the entirety of the 5 innings?
He said we asked him why he went out there to check on Kopech with that mound visit with the trainer, and he said he noticed that the fastball velocity was down. He did not specify past that, but then he said once he got back, he saw that the next pitch or so was back up to what he was expecting it to be, or closer to what he was expecting it to be, so he didn't think that an injury was afoot.
And Vinny, since you brought it up earlier about Pedro pretty much not worrying necessarily about what's physically wrong with him, just the attitude, the mental side of the game for Michael, I looked it up. I don't know if I found anything definitive. Do they employ a sports psychologist? Because it seems like you were just saying, more of the stuff and the miles per hour have been down, but more of the times than not, it's more he's wearing his emotions on his sleeve. He's actually going through it. That whole second inning where he's walking people, it tumbled on top of itself and snowballed down the hill until finally he got it under control versus Jose Ramirez. For a long question to be short, do they employ a full-time sports psychologist or somebody that can help him get his mentality correct?
They do. But I mean, Pedro was obviously speaking to what he can do to work with Michael on a regular basis. Obviously, Ethan Katz and Kurt Hassler do the bulk of the pitching work with Michael on a regular basis. But I think Pedro, from the standpoint of, clubhouse leader, guy who's trying to get his players in the right headspace, is talking about how he likes to keep things positive. And with Michael specifically, needs to remind him to, or wants to remind him, I should say, that he's been good and he needs to dial back to those times where he had success and where he was enjoying that success and enjoying the competition. It's as we've talked about over and over and over again, the whole, where did the attitude of this team from 2020 and the early parts of 2021 go? And the easiest explanation is usually the right one, right? No one likes to lose. It's no fun to lose, kind of thing. And so I think you could point to a similar thing as a microcosm here with Michael, where it's his emotions are going to be negative because things aren't going well. And if things were going well, it would be easier for him to find that joy that he has had in the past when things have gone well. But for him, it might be a little bit more difficult to put one in front of the other when he's not getting the results first, or to, as he said, to start with a positive attitude like that and then have the results, force you to change it, unfortunately.
And I liked your question. I think if my research is correct, it's Dr. Fish, Jeffrey Fishbein, has been a sports psychologist with the White Sox since 2010. So, hey, even the sports psychology has job security, but he probably does a good job. Hey, I mean, everyone's got tenure in this White Sox organization. It's not. Hey, a lot of these people probably do fantastic jobs. I'm just mad at three specific people. But we'll hear from one of those guys later on in the show. So let's get into the trades because we haven't really touched upon this yet. Lance Lynn and Joe Kelly going to the Dodgers and Kendall Graveman going to the Astros. Let's hear from Rick Hahn on the trades, on Corey Lee, on what they got back, and then we'll come back and we'll chat with Vinny, who was there and actually filmed this video. So thanks, Vin.
Very strong catch and throw type, good leader on the field, high energy. I believe it was in the release, because that's how good Bob Beckball is, that he was teammates and he actually was roommates with Andrew Vaughn. Andrew Vaughn and I had a conversation earlier today about Corey and about Corey's potential fit and makeup, and Andrew had nothing but very positive things to say, and we're excited to add another potential future piece behind the plate to the organization. With the Dodgers, we acquired two arms and Trace Thompson, starting with Mastrini. We view him as having a very solid four-pitch mix, command of all four with significant upside and the ability to continue his advancement towards Chicago here. Leisure is another power arm, fastball slider combination. Obviously has some gaudy strikeout numbers in Double-A. He will be joining the Charlotte Knights in the coming days, so we're promoting him right off the bat, and look forward to following both those pitchers' development here over the next several months and into 2024. Trace, obviously we all know Trace. Those of you who've been around for a while, been here for his previous stint. Between the lines, he provides us with some versatility, the ability to play all three outfield positions, obviously complement the left-handed hitters we have in the corners, and to back up Luis in center field. As importantly, Trace is a class individual. He is a great teammate. He is a very strong team guy and the type of guy we want in here as part of this culture, certainly for the rest of the year and potentially going forward as well. So with that, questions?
Rick, the two guys that you traded on Wednesday night, you talked about how they were pending free agents and what that meant for this deal. The three guys you traded today had more control, or the options of more control.
The potential for more control.
Yeah, does it speak to what your guys' plans are for next season that you moved them today?
I think it speaks more towards projecting out how each of those guys would potentially fit going forward and being more compelled to add the future pieces that we were able to get at this time. Obviously, all these things, the guys who are impending free agents, I think from a logical standpoint, by the end, you should get what you can get if you're not going to compete this year. The guys with future control, it all comes down to a balancing of the return versus the value of that player in the organization for next year. In each of the deals today, we're very pleased with what we were able to bring back, but there was no urgency necessarily to move any of the three players.
I think the discussion that he ends there with about it speaks more towards projecting how each of these guys would potentially fit going forward and talking about the guys with future control and the expiring deals. It seems like the reports from baseball media like Bob Nightingale, et cetera, are saying that the White Sox are looking to keep people that extend past 2024. That's why they're reportedly going to be keeping Dylan Cease and keeping Aaron Bummer. It seems like they could possibly deal TA if the right deal came along, but it doesn't seem like there's a ton of interest in TA. I know the rebuild word hasn't been used yet, but it doesn't also seem like Rick's saying they're going to compete in 2024. It seems like they're still trying to figure out what that 2024 team, especially that pitching side, is going to look like.
Well, Rick hasn't said anything in that regard yet, and I think that they know what direction they want to go in. They know whether they want to or try to compete in 2024 or not. Otherwise, I think they would have come out and said that, and then you would have seen them execute these moves for those reasons, right? But I don't think that there would be a great level of unknown if the idea is you want to keep the guys who you have under control who can be a part of this moving forward. So I think this is one of those, I don't want to call it a half measure because, I think it could work out very well for them, but it's a situation in which we've got this small bucket of guys who we don't think would be a part of next year's team. Look, you had a disappointing Lance. So Lucas and Reynaldo were going to free agency. Lance was disappointing and was going to cost you $18 million if you wanted to bring him back. And Joe Kelly has been on the injured list like 6 or 7 times since he came to the White Sox. Disappointing year last year from a numbers standpoint. This year the numbers were better, but he was still on and off the IL. He had an option too. Maybe you don't want to bring him back. The only one of those 5 guys who was going to guaranteed to be back for next year was Kendall Graveman. So that's maybe an outlier of that 5-man group there. But really everybody else that could be part of this next year or that would be intriguing to be part of this next year is here, right? And so unless you see them trade TA or Cease or somebody who, or even Bummer who, does have like that, I don't think there's anything that has happened so far that would preclude them from fielding a competitive team or attempting to field a competitive team for next year. Obviously, there's a lot of work to do, right? You're talking about needing to replace 60% of the starting rotation for, most likely if Mike Clevenger is not back. And then you've got another starting pitcher out there who would be your number 2 guy right now who's can't find the zone and is giving up a bunch of home runs. So the starting rotation is a complete mystery. And maybe that alone is what prevents them from contending in 2024. But what I want to hear is the intent that this team has. Again, it's not whether or not it ends up being successful that they build a contender for 2024. It's what are they trying to do? Are they trying to build a contender for 2024? Or did all these guys they acquire, is that the beginning or the middle of a quasi short-term rebuild? Again, he hasn't used that word yet but he hasn't said the opposite is true either. So we don't know yet. I think we will know Tuesday. It would make sense that he would wait until all of this is done to come out and say what he needs to say, but he hasn't said it yet.
On keeping with the same theme of how these pitchers have been traded, the 5 people that have gone with no control past 2024, Mike Clevenger's still on the team, so is Keenan Middleton. Would you expect those 2 guys to be moved before Tuesday's deadline?
I guess Middleton would be probably the more likely one. Clevenger has just not pitched very much, and when he has, it hasn't been terribly impressive. Now, he did throw 5 shutout innings last night in his first start back from the injured list, but I don't know if he's got enough under the belt to even, intrigue very many other teams. We'll see, though. Like I've been saying the last few weeks, teams always want pitching. They can't get enough pitching at the deadline. So, but if you're talking about what are the White Sox going to get back in return, those 2 guys that you asked me about there, that doesn't strike me as people that would fetch much. Of course, I don't know for sure, but that being said, the 3 deals that they have made, the reviews on the return packages have been pretty good from the talent evaluators. So as White Sox fans well know, being ranked high on a prospect list does not equal an automatic World Series or an automatic trip to the playoffs, but you got to be happier if you're a White Sox fan, or if you're the White Sox specifically, than you would if you were to get lower ranked guys. So there you go.
The most interesting thing that I think Rick can talk about, and he probably won't, but it would be the budget for next year, because as Bob noted with the trades, could be major players in free agency this winter. I don't know if there's much out there outside of Ohtani, but they shed $25 million in their 3 trades, and then obviously Grandal's $18.2 would be coming off the books. Middleton wouldn't provide a ton of salary relief, but Clevenger had a base salary of $8, and there is a mutual option next year. If they were able to clear some of that money, that would be surprising because of what Vinnie said. Again, the innings that he's pitched haven't been that impressive. That could again give more salary relief, and I would wonder, what Rick would say about what the budget would be, because we've seen $200 million, $185 million. This was supposed to be within the 5 to 7 year window. Is there enough money to be aggressive to fill out those 3 remaining possible, rotation spots if Kopech and Cease are your 1-2?
I'm not sure, because of, I think Josh Nelson put the graph together where it's players getting raises next year. Tim's going from 12.5 to 14. Yohan's going from 17 to 24. Andrew Benintendi's going from 8 to 16. So these money that you saved in trading these players, and then you have money off the books, it's pretty much negligible with the raises that are coming back for the people who are coming back for 2024. So I see them probably having a decent amount of cap room, and they have to fill out 3/5 of their rotation, I would think, with players from free agency, because there's not anybody that's like dorming, that's ready to pitch in the major leagues, or at least not on the major league roster or the 40-man right now. So they would have to spend money, and like you said, there is not a lot of good starting pitchers that would be in the White Sox realm to sign. Like the high guys like Shohei, Marcus Stroman, Lucas Giolito, those players, Snell, wouldn't be, I don't think, in White Sox category, but the guys that we were talking about, the Hyun-Jin Ryu, that's more the guys that they would be going for. Or they can put one of those Dodger prospects. I guess he's kind of close, but also very erratic and very wild, like Michael Kopech.
Yeah, I wouldn't expect Rick at this time to say anything related to what the budget's going to be for the upcoming offseason. Wow, there's a lot of talk around here already from players, from coaches, from Rick about 2024 already, and certainly we've been talking about it for a little bit longer, but that is usually something that is not discussed until the offseason begins. So I would say October, November is probably when you would hear comments from him on that topic, if you were to hear some.
So 2024 pay raises to Moncada, Hendricks, Benintendi, Jimenez, Robert, and Bummer equals $23.42 million. So again, if we're going back to the Bob tweet, which he was quote tweeting, and this is from Josh Nelson, there's about a $2 million difference there, but that doesn't include ARB salaries for Cease, Kopech, and Vaughn. So we'll see what the salary and the budget does look like, and obviously, as Vinny said, that might not be an answer that we get this year, or at least this
summer,
this baseball calendar year. Obviously the season maybe not until November
or October. Yeah,
or October, but after they're done playing baseball. So let's take a break, and then we'll jump into the trades and the players that they got. Again, Lance Lynn and Joe Kelly traded to the Dodgers for Trace Thompson. He's back. Nick Nastrini, who is a starting right-handed pitcher, and then Jordan Leisure, who is a right-handed relief pitcher, not related to Jason Leisure, different spelling.
Yes.
And then also...
How about David Leisure?
I don't know.
The Mitsubishi guy.
Yeah, I don't know who that is.
An actor.
Good for him. Hey. And then Kendall Graveman to the Astros for catcher Corey Lee. But let's take a break, and we'll let you know about some of the sponsors we have, like Shady Rays. Take on the sun with gear built to last. Our friends at Shady Rays have you covered with the warm weather ahead with premium polarized shades at an affordable price. Shady Rays is an independent sunglasses company that offers a world-class product that's just as good as any expensive pair we've worn. They have durable frames and extremely clear optics for outdoor adventures. And that's not all. Shady Rays offers the most insane protection program in all of eyewear. Every pair of sunglasses backed by lost and broken replacements. If you lose or break a pair, even on day one, tells us they will send you a brand new pair, no questions asked. Wear your Shady Rays with confidence because they have your back long after your purchase. And if you don't love your Shady Rays, you could exchange it for a new pair or return them for free within 30 days. There's no risk when you shop. Their team always has your back. Exclusively for our listeners, Shady Rays is giving out their best deal this season. Go to shadyrays.com and use code CHGO for 50% off 2+ pairs of polarized shades. Try for yourself the shades rated 5 stars by over 250,000 people. And Vinny, Herb, and I all love our fantastic Shady Rays. So thank you to Shady Rays. They are the best sunglasses that we have ever owned. And like Herb just had, no cap. There was no cap in that statement.
Yes. That's what the kids say.
Herb, I do know you're a connoisseur of cannabis.
I am.
I do know that you review dispensaries around Chicago.
I do.
I have seen that ad on Twitter.
Which is weird. It's the weirdest thing that I've had a cease and desist with those people.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Did it work?
Well, I don't have a lawyer, so they just that doesn't mean anything.
Well,
regular dude.
Hey, regular dude. I know that your favorite dispensary is Sunnyside Cannabis Dispensary. They're your home for judgment-free cannabis shopping, a place where all kind of visitors are welcome to explore, discover, and purchase a wide array of high-quality products. Sunnyside has everything you need to elevate your summer, and it's a one-stop shop for all your cannabis needs, no matter where you are on your cannabis journey. They have easy online ordering and in-store pickup, and great transparent loyalty program, Sunnyside Rewards, so you can get rewarded for buying your weed. Illinois' favorite dispensary from city to suburbs, Wrigleyville to River North, Champaign to South Beloit. They have a ton of in-house brands like Mindy's, Good News, Cresco, High Supply, Floral Cal, Wonder, and Remedy. What's your favorite?
It's Friday. I think it's a Good News one.
There you go. So check that out. And through August, head to sunnyside.shop and use code CHGO25 at checkout for 25% off your total order. One use per customer. It's not stackable with other promotions. That's not only for new customers. Anyone could use our code. So head to the nearest Sunnyside by you. Head to sunnyside.shop to fill out a pre-order. So you could just head in, pick up, and use code CHGO25 at 25% off at checkout for your total order. Again, one use per customer. Pick up everything you need to elevate your summer. Must be 21 plus or an Illinois Med card holder. Let's hear from Joe Kelly and Lance Lynn. Some interesting stuff from Lance about, for both of them, about the pennant, and then you asked a question, Vinny, about the clubhouse, the state of the White Sox clubhouse. We'll return and hear more about the players that are welcoming in, and maybe they'll be a part of this clubhouse in the near future. But here's Lance Lynn and Joe Kelly on what it's like to be on a contender, what the White Sox clubhouse is like, and then Lance also addresses not hearing from the front office, a storyline we talked about the past week.
Reaction to moving into a pennant race?
Yeah, I mean, that's why you play the game, like we talked about yesterday. To have that opportunity, obviously you wish it was here. When I signed my extension here, that was the goal. It didn't work out. I love my time here. It didn't, like I said, it didn't work out as much as winning as we'd have liked. But I have great memories. We have great friends, great relationships, and I'm happy to have the time that I had here. But it is a business, and sometimes these things happen. And, I'm just looking forward to the possibility of making a playoff push.
Lance, as you leave, what kind of state do you think that this clubhouse is in, this team is in, as they kind of try to prepare for next year and beyond?
Obviously there's a lot of guys in there that you have close relationships with people leaving. So families like each other. You get to know each other over the years. Kids are friends. So it's a weird time. There's no other way to say it. I think all in all, everybody likes the opportunity to win, but you also are leaving people that you enjoy and that you've created relationships with. So that's the business, but it's also the sour part of it.
Were you able to have, I guess, some communication or input that you were looking to, hopefully have more of with the front office over the last day or so?
Yeah, I think yesterday, the comment I made was, that I've had some more, kind of, Rick did tell me that, there's some things and we did have to talk about waiving the no trade. So I think it kind of came out wrong. Rick's been good to me. He's been with me the whole way. So I think it was just one of those things when you hear things media-wise outside of what's going on here, and he told me, hey, I got nothing for you. So at the time, he didn't have anything for me. So you hear other things and you just assume things. But he's been with me every step of the way, even signing the extension and all that. We've had a great time together, great relationship. So they told me as much as they could. And you know, I thank them for that. Yeah, I guess you always want more because you hear more, and he didn't have what was out there. So, you know, and he told me, you know, we talked yesterday and today. He's like, hey, this has come up kind of quick. We didn't have anything when you thought you heard the things you heard. So, you know, he was truthful with me, and we were able to, you know, move through it.
Yeah, I mean, it's a funny business, right? It's baseball, and you know, you could write it all out, put it on paper, and it looks great. You know, ultimately, you know, we as players got ourselves in the situation that, you know, why we're having this press conference, you know, why Lance has talked, why Graves has talked, why Lopi, why Gio. You know, we just didn't play good enough, and you know, it's not like, you know, there's no hard feelings. You know, I want to thank the organization for, you know, taking me on, and you know, I pitched as well as I could every time out. You know, it might not have been great, but yeah, it's one of those things where if that's your job, you know, it's a tough business. You kind of have to disconnect from the relationship with the player, and you know, when other teams want guys, and you know, you have the opportunity to make your club better for the future. It's something that, you know, if I would ever have that role in baseball, it's something that, you know, I would do. You know, I have a little bit less empathy than most people, so it wouldn't really hurt my feelings. But you know, it's baseball, and you know, it's a win for both teams.
You alluded to the results that the White Sox have had this year. What kind of state do you think the clubhouse and the team is in moving forward as you depart?
Well, obviously, the clubhouse now. It would be dumb to say anything different. It's obviously shocked. You know, but some of these young guys have never seen something like this happen. You know, for myself, I've been traded before. I've seen a team, you know, get kind of, you know, I'm not going to put, you know, completely blown up, but, you know, when there's the right pieces to move at the right time, I've seen teams do it. I've been part of that. And, you know, it's a learning experience, like I said, from young guys, old guys in there. And hopefully it's something that, you know, those guys could take, and it should hurt a little bit, obviously. Hopefully they could go in there and realize, like, hey, like, this is what baseball is if you don't perform. You know, hopefully, I'm not trying to, like, you know, scare, you know, the guys in there, but most of them are young, and now you see, you know, this is what it is. So you got to play well, and, you know, when you're predicted to play well and you don't, this is what the, you know, the consequences are of that. So they'll be good, though. You know, there's a lot of great young talent. You know, obviously with these trades, there's going to be great young talent coming back. So they should not be down and kind of be excited, and, you know, kind of flush this. Obviously, when the trade deadline's over, it's not over yet, but you know, when they get the group of guys who they're going to play with the rest of the year, I'm sure there'll be talks or you know, how we're going to approach the rest of the season as these guys and as a team. But yeah, there's going to be some excitement for the kids coming up, but obviously, like I said, hopefully it's a learning experience all around for everyone.
Nice to put a bow on the Rick Hahn and Lance Lynn thing. We all kind of was just like, Lance is probably overreacting, because why would you tell anybody anything if there's nothing to tell them? And that's basically what Lance said, that Rick has been with him the whole way. So he kind of took back those comments a little bit. And hey, it kind of shows you the human side of baseball players. He was anxious about where his kids are going to go to school. He's anxious about where he's going to be next. He's anxious about moving his family. Now he has some clarity, and it's, you know, all fine and dandy now that Lance Lynn knows what's happening. But I liked what Joe Kelly had to wrap up there with the clubhouse. In 2019, it was kind of a surprising year, even though it was 72-90 for this team. Mm-hmm. And then 2020, they were in it and they were competing, but it was a weird year, 60 game season. And then in 2021, they were truly a contender for the first time. Mm-hmm. This team has really never been in a true selling position like they were, because we remember last year in 2022, Rick Hahn was disappointed what they did at the trade deadline, or the lack of actions. I think that was interesting from Joe, because it's like, you know, hey, here's a little bit of a wake-up call, because, like, hey, you could be, you know, the hottest news yesterday, and, you know, it's not even a part of the paper the next day. I don't know what the fuck that was, but yeah. You know, it is kind of a wake-up call, I think, to this team.
Yeah, and for his part, and what Rick Hahn, Kenny Williams, whoever is doing the trading, they're doing a phenomenal job. They can sell off, and we remember the whole beginning of this rebuild. They got good value for what they traded off eventually, and now I think the players that they brought back, awesome. But this will be a kind of a youngish team, even though we're bringing back a decent amount of people, our older players are on their way somewhere else because of we're the pitchers. So it is a good reminder, those people in the clubhouse, to say, this is a profession. This is a business. Yeah, we're joshing around. We're having a great time, but you need to look at your next man and say, we got to do our job. If we don't do our job, we'll be sent down to the minor leagues or be shipped out like Lance is, and worrying about where his kids are going to be at next year, worrying where he's going to be living temporary for the next 2 months type of stuff. And I'm hoping that these White Sox young players take that to heart and understand that this is not forever. And you can be gone from this team quickly, just as quick as you're on the team. I mean, they need to look no further than Keenan Middleton, who's had a whirlwind of a career and probably won't be a White Sox next year. Mm-hmm. He probably understands the business, and I'm sure the rest of the team and the rest of the players in there, with the 5 guys that have been gone and the 5 guys that have been replaced those guys, know that it's a quick, short career, and you better start doing what you need to do to stay in this league and stay on this team.
Yeah, Vinny, I mean, has it been a wake-up call? I don't know if you've heard from other people besides, obviously, Lance and Joe and Kendall, but what has the kind of reaction been within the people that are still sticking around in that clubhouse?
I mean, they've been in this situation for a while, right? We've been talking about them as kind of steamrolling towards selling mode for some time. Obviously, there was some hope that they were going to be able to turn it around, but the team's playing, the same baseball it's been playing all year long. And I mean, they're 21 games under 500 as of today. They well know why these guys left this past week. And I think they just, they're mad about that. They're not happy. They're sad about that, whatever you want to say. You know what I mean? That it got to this point. It certainly still remains kind of stunning, as Joe Kelly pointed out, that you could have a team that on paper looks like it's capable of winning the World Series, and then you look up at the end of July to a year and a half later, we'll call it, and they're this bad, they're this low under 500. So they all knew that this was a possibility. They probably all know that things are still a possibility, just because there are players on this team that are attractive to other teams. But yeah, I mean, I think, like I said earlier, there's a lot of already looking ahead, and we've already got people talking about, all right, who's going to step up into the leadership vacuum now that some of these older guys are gone. We've got people already asking the pitching coach what the rotation is going to look like next year. We've got people asking, the manager, how do you prepare these guys for next year? And not only that, but the manager saying today that the construction of the roster for 2024 starts now. I mean, they are already moving forward into preparing for next year mode. Doesn't mean that they're not going to play. They're not going to, show up and try to win these last however many games they've got, but they know where the next realistic shot is. It's back when it's after the records reset to 0-0 for everybody. So this is going to be a very important offseason, as all the off seasons have been. But now they have to figure out, are they going to be able to field the contender next year?
Yeah, let's talk about some of the guys that they've gotten in return. We already talked about Cuero and Bush. Seems like Bush is maybe a fringe starter, but seems like he does have at least reliever potential.
He's had a rough debut as a White Sox, but, it's one start.
Yeah, and he's coming off a groin and oblique injury, I think, too. So he's kind of working his way back. They got Edgar Quero, a catcher prospect who is a top 100 prospect, and we'll play a little bit from Kelly McDaniel later from ESPN. But he said, Cuero is a guy that is 100% a top 100 prospect, but you could debate whether he's at 30 or 90. Okay. So he's kind of got a wide array of, this guy's good, but it's, he's so young, it's tough to define that quality of player. But Nick Nastrini comes over in the Lance Lynn and Joe Kelly trade. I think Rick mentioned it, but he's a guy with a 4-pitch mix. Right now, his fastball is graded as a 60. That's above average. His slider has a future grade of 60, but right now it is at an average pitch at 50. His curveball is a little bit above average at 55. His potential value, though, is around 60. The changeup has a potential value around 50. Those are the 4 pitches that could be that mix for this right-handed starter. He is 23 years old and was taken in the 4th round of the 2021 draft by the Dodgers, and he's got a okay innings base. Last year he threw around 130 innings, I think, total between low Advanced A and Double A, and right now he's got around 73 and 2/3. this year so far. So it does seem like he does have starter potential. And then Jordan Leisure, again, is a guy that what we've heard so far, reliever potential, but they've got somebody that could possibly stick in the 2024 rotation. I don't know what Katz had to say about the 2024 rotation there, Vinny. But I know Rick Hahn even mentioned in his press conference that Corey Lee, the catcher that they got from the Astros, could be making an impact on the 2023 roster.
Yeah, and Pedro Grifol was even more definitive about it over the last couple days. He was just asked point blank, "Is this a guy you could see coming up and playing this year?" And he just goes, "Yes." Corey Lee is going to be on this team perhaps sooner than later. I believe that he is also coming off an injury and that he will have a rehab assignment starting soon, or I don't know if you call it a rehab assignment if you're a minor league player, but he will be rehabbing that injury at Charlotte. But once he gets healthy, I mean, Rick said in the press conference, maybe he stays in Charlotte, maybe he comes right here. So he could be up here very soon. I mean, listen, we've talked about it a lot. Yasmani Grandal is not only going to be a free agent at the end of the year and probably be the end of his White Sox tenure, but even in the moment here over the next two months, he's limited physically in how much he can catch. And Sebi Zavala, who gets great reviews from working with the pitchers, but he's hitting well below 200. So in terms of moving forward, you need a guy who can be better offensively than Sebi's been, and a guy who can be better defensively than or certainly more capable of taking on that workload than Yasmani's been. So maybe Corey Lee is that guy. If he gets a run here of any kind, you would have to imagine he'd be in the driver's seat for the opening day job next year, unless they could go out and find somebody else. Remember, they've done it before. James McCann was an all-star. They went out and signed Yasmani Grandal, so they take their opportunities where they can in the offseason. But I think right now, if you're pegging a favorite to be the opening day catcher next year, it's probably Corey Lee.
And I like how Rick and the front office went out and got two catchers, prospects in these trades. Both of those catchers were probably the two of the prospects in that division. So, Ohapi in the Anaheim Angels was a little bit better than Caro. So, on the major league roster. So, great trade by Rick to get that catcher as young as he is. And then the Corey Lee get for Kendall Graveman. I'm not a big-time prospect guy, but everybody I've talked to is like, amazing. Amazing that you got this type of talent for – it's not a rental because Graveman signed for next year, but you're signing pretty much a reliever, and you got a major league starter possibly for your team next year, as we were worried about having Sebi being the all-time starter next year, which has been not good.
Well, it obviously, pays to be patient and pays to be a little bit curious about what could happen if all you got to do is take a look at the MLB.com prospect rankings within the organizations. Yeah, that's the number 5 prospect that the Astros had. It seems like that would be, oh man, that's cause for celebration. He goes over to the White Sox and all of a sudden he's 15 in the White Sox system, according to MLB.com at the moment. So again, not saying it's bad. It's good to go ahead and get that for a guy, but you just added a top 15 prospect to your organization, a guy that's ranked behind Lenin Sosa, Jose Rodriguez, and other guys who White Sox fans have been disappointed with, when they've come up to the major league level here, or are taking a while to develop still. So we'll see, though. He's obviously much closer to the major leagues, had a little bit more, or he had 12 games, I think, in the majors with the Astros last season. So this guy's ready, it would seem, to get his crack at a major league job.
Let's wrap it up here. Thanks for the segue, because Kiley McDaniel was on White Sox Weekly on ESPN 1000 with Jesse Rogers this past Saturday, and the ESPN Baseball Insider and their main draft guy talked about the state of the White Sox farm system and started off with the gem of Colson Montgomery.
I think he'll be in the top 10 prospects in baseball when I update it in a few weeks. That he's now didn't start the season until later. Like that guy, right. That is the slam dunk, like top of the system. That's the guy you can focus on, that you can really, in the same way like Seattle, I think somewhat wrongfully was focused on Jared Kelnick. And then once Julio showed up, they're like, never mind, Julio, that was the guy we were focused on. It was, I think the fans got bamboozled a little bit. I think Colson Montgomery is the very clear number 1 prospect here. That's the guy you hang your hat on, that you get excited about, that all the fans might be buying his jersey as soon as, a year from now. And just for, I haven't committed to this publicly yet, but just for context, 2 winters ago, I had the White Sox as the 30th last farm system in baseball. Coming into this year, I had them 26th. Right now, I have them 12th. So if they can make one or two more trades, they might break into the top 10, having just been selling for a month, which would be quite a turnaround from a system that didn't have a ton of hope pretty recently.
Depends on the return, but Kiley says there that they could possibly be pushing as a top 10 farm system if they make certain more trades, and we know Keenan Middleton might be an option. Yasmani Grandal maybe could be somebody that goes. Aaron Bummer is somebody to be discussed, but it seems like it wasn't what people wanted to do, but when you look at the farm system and, obviously with Pedro talking about the 2024 lineup, that's what we've been talking about a lot. It seems like a lot of those positions possibly are set. It does seem like they could be pushing for it, and it just depends more on how much they're actually going to push for it in 2024 and spend that money to, I think upgrade that rotation, because obviously right now I don't think that they have enough in-house to make that team a contender, but the lineup seems all right. I don't really seem concerned about the lineup. Ethan Katz has been doing a great job with the bullpen, and I think that they could probably have a more Keenan Middletons, Jimmy Lamberts pop up. It's more about spending that money on starting pitching, and I do think that this 2024 team is in a all right spot. I don't think that fans should be fans should be pissed, but they did all right in the bad spot that they're in.
Oh, yeah, they did a good job, and doesn't mean that me praising them means I want them all back. You know my stance on that. But for 3 spots they have to fill in the rotation, I wouldn't go, because I know the White Sox, all free agent route. I would go maybe if we have now a top 10, top 12 farm system, maybe using some of that depth, if we have some, to trade for a starting pitcher that might be on somebody else's roster. This is why you have a good depth in your farm system, to also supplement the Major League Club and to supplement the Major League Club via trades. So I wouldn't just look for them to spend a ton of money in this offseason. I would say if you want to compete in 2024, especially in this division, it's going to be hard for you to wait for Sean Burke, etc. pitchers that in the minor leagues who are not ready to be here in the major leagues. You probably have to go and get somebody else's major league already starting pitcher that is not available via free agency to be in that rotation. And I hope it's a top of the rotation guy that can actually bolster this rotation, because as we talked about, Cease is a top of the rotation guy that hasn't really pitched like it at times this year, but Michael Kopech, it's going to be real tough going into next year as your number 2 right now.
And Ethan Katz was asked today, are there any guys in the minors that can come up here during the final couple months and show if they got something here? And basically he said no. He basically said that they're focused on the guys who are here, the Tukey Toussaints, the Tanner Bankses, the Jesse Schultenses. I don't know if any of 3 of those guys have a future as part of a rotation in 2024. I wouldn't call that the most confidence-inspiring list if you're trying to feel the contender. And like you mentioned, Michael Kopech. So I'll say this: if they want to even think about fielding a competitive starting rotation going into next year, they got to go get 3 guys. That's my opinion, because what they have in the minor leagues in terms of readiness, I think going into opening day next season, you're talking about hoping for another Davis Martin type situation. And I don't think you can go in with your fingers crossed hoping. I will bring this up. One nugget from the weekend. Garrett Crochet wants to be a starting pitcher next year. He said as much. And while I don't know how realistic that is from a timeline standpoint, he even acknowledged that he wished that he had a lot more innings under his belt before he attempted to make that transition. I'll just throw it out there that he wants to do that. Whether the team wants him to do that is to be decided, of course, but that is his desire. And he has gotten some positive reviews, at least in terms of somebody who might have the ability to make that transition. But you would think that would require significant amount of time in the minor leagues to become someone who can handle every 5th day job.
Yeah, and we're going to probably talk more about we're going to have an off day show tomorrow at 12. So we'll talk maybe about Garrett Crochet being a starter. But I'm not surprised by that. I mean, hey, who wouldn't want to get starter money if you could be a starter? So, I mean, they pay a lot better than relievers. So, I mean, we'll see if he can make that transition. That'd be difficult. But tomorrow, I do want to talk a little bit about something, too, that was in your quote. Maybe who's the leader of the 2024 Sox, because you had a quote from Dylan Cease about, Lance Lynn. He's always been a huge leader. That is obviously going to shift the clubhouse as well. And it seems like Andrew Vaughn, for what Rick Hahn has said, it might be more of a leader in the 2024 locker room. He was roommates with Corey Lee. So, hey, he's got a friendship there already. So we'll see who really emerges in 2024. I will say this. I do think Touki Toussaint will be a part of the rotation in 2024, and I'm not mad about it. I think he's been all right.
He's had a pretty good year, but I just don't like gambling on an unknown. We don't know if he's this. If he's this, I'm in.
Sign 5 Touki Toussants. That's what I do with home run gambling, and it works. So, hey, just sign 5 of them, and then, maybe one of them is a Johnny Cueto, maybe one of them is a Touki Toussaint.
Be 70 and 92.
All the rest of them are Ivan Novas and Irvin Santana's, and throw out another guy.
Oh, yeah, speaking of.
Drissimer Despaigne.
Speaking of Vinny, we're a co-host with a superstar home run guy. He keeps on picking some good-ass bets. And literally, 1-2 count in the 5th inning, when Stephen Kwan's up, he exclaims out loud, well, how are they not hitting home runs off this guy? Talking about Michael Kopech. The next pitch, crack, home run. The batter after that, crack, home run. Or 2 batters after that, crack, home run. This guy is a genius. He's making money like it's going out of style right now. Sean's going to be paying for our dinner next time we go out.
Well, I liked everything you were saying until that.
Okay.
We could slow down on that. Maybe
Make
I'll
up
be
all
next.
the monies.
Well, Sean, may I say, what a fascinating prognostication that you were able to correctly predict that someone would hit a home run off of a pitcher who's one of the 5 leading home run allowers in baseball.
But Stephen Kwan, that's a pretty good kid.
Tip of the hat.
Well, hey, I noticed last night that Stephen Kwan, all the fly balls and line drives that he had against Michael Kopech went an average distance of like 370 feet. He had like 5 fly balls that were like from 350 to 390. So none of them went out. And it was just, you look at that at bat, and it was a called strike that, Kwan's patient. He's not really ever going to get too worried when he gets down. And then he throws a horrible changeup that's like up in the zone that Kwan falls off.
We've seen a couple of those.
And the big thing with Kopech that we saw today was those breaking balls were leaking to the outside. And I don't know if that was something with his mechanics. I was guessing that he was maybe uncomfortable with his mechanics, and that's why he wasn't really repeating them. But then he finally throws that fastball, and it's basically the same location as that first one, and Kwan didn't wait.
Kwan did a good job bringing the hands in and getting the barrel extended.
All that stuff's lucky. And it went 369 feet, which is, like 370.
Below average.
But, yeah, but it's below average. So, hey, I don't know shit. Anyways, we'll wrap this up. We'll talk more tomorrow, maybe about who the next White Sox to go will be. We might also have more trades to talk about. It'll be an off-day show at 12 o'clock. And I do want to get into the catcher position. Will it be Corey Lee in 2024? Can Caro make a push for the 2024 team? And Yasmani Grandal, if they don't trade him, do they DFA him? I mean, what's the point for him to be on the team for the rest of the year? We'll talk about all that tomorrow with the Off Day Show. That's Vinnie Duber. You can follow him on Twitter at Vinnie Duber. He's our CHGO White Sox beat writer, and read his latest piece about the Lance Lynn, Joe Kelly, and Kendall Graveman trade on allchgo.com. That's Herb Lawrence. You can follow him on Twitter at Ecknerwall23. He's our CHGO White Sox community leader. I'm Sean Anderson. You can follow me on Twitter at Sean_W_Anderson. You can follow the show on Twitter at CHGO_White Sox. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Make sure you're hitting that thumbs up button, and we'll talk to you tomorrow at 12. Bye.